On January 6, 1982, at exactly 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I entered a chamber beneath the Calvary escarpment, located north of the ancient city wall of Jerusalem. Inside that hidden chamber, I discovered what I believe to be the Ark of the Covenant. Throughout human history, certain mysteries continue to cling to the heart and soul, no matter how much time passes. Some discoveries reach beyond logic and evidence and touch something deeper: our faith, our imagination, and our understanding of how God interacts with humanity. Among all biblical artifacts, few inspire as much awe, reverence, and holy fear as the Ark of the Covenant. According to Scripture, the Ark was a sacred chest that held the stone tablets of the 10 Commandments, Aaron's rod that budded, and a golden pot of manna from the wilderness. Its description alone inspires trembling. The Ark was not merely a religious object or historical artifact. It represented the earthly dwelling place of God's presence. It was the throne of the Almighty among His people. For centuries, explorers, theologians, archaeologists, and treasure seekers have searched for it. Some believe it was hidden beneath Jerusalem before the Babylonian invasion. Others claim it was carried to Ethiopia for safekeeping. Many assume it was destroyed or lost forever. Yet shortly before his death, a man named Ron Wyatt made a claim that shocked both the archaeological community and the world of faith. Ron Wyatt, a nurse anesthetist turned amateur biblical archaeologist, stated that he had discovered the Ark of the Covenant. Even more astonishing, he claimed that what he witnessed was so profound and controversial that the world was not yet prepared to fully accept it. Before continuing, we invite you to subscribe to our channel for more insights into biblical mysteries and discoveries explained in a clear and simple way. Ron Wyatt was not a university professor, nor was he a renowned scientist backed by academic institutions. He was a family man from Tennessee, deeply devoted to his faith. Ron believed that true inspiration does not always come from human intellect, but from God Himself. Some viewed him as a dreamer, while others considered him obsessive. Ron, however, described himself simply as a man who was led. In the late 1970s, during a visit to Israel, Ron stood near the Garden Tomb, a site many Christians believe to be the burial place of Jesus Christ. While standing there, he experienced something overwhelming, a powerful impression that he could not ignore. In that moment, he became convinced that God was guiding him toward a discovery that would change everything. That moment marked the beginning of what Ron believed would be the most important archaeological search of his life, the search for the Ark of the Covenant. The journey Ron Wyatt undertook was neither simple nor quick. It was marked by years of physical labor, uncertainty, and criticism. Along with a small team, Ron began excavating beneath layers of rock, soil, and ancient passageways. Some of these tunnels were naturally formed, while others appeared to have been carved by human hands centuries earlier. Each day brought exhaustion, yet Ron remained determined. The site of his excavation lay beneath a rocky hill known as Golgotha, also called Calvary, the very place where Scripture records that Jesus Christ was crucified. To many, the idea that the Ark of the Covenant could be hidden beneath this location seemed impossible. Why would the most sacred object of ancient Israel be placed at the site of Christ's execution? The connection felt too symbolic, too poetic, and too extraordinary to be taken seriously. Still, Ron continued. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and eventually, years. Then, according to Ron's testimony, one moment changed everything. While working with his tools, his chisel suddenly broke through a natural stone barrier. Beyond it lay a sealed chamber that appeared untouched by time. Inside the chamber were carved stone structures, fragments of ancient pottery, and ruins preserved in silence. The air was dry and still. The chamber had been carefully sealed, as though it had been intentionally hidden and forgotten by the world above. Ron sensed immediately that what he had found was no ordinary underground space. As he moved deeper into the chamber, Ron described seeing a large rectangular stone chest resting quietly in the darkness. It was smooth, massive, and covered with both stone and gold. The stone lid above it was broken into two pieces, as if it had been struck by a tremendous force long ago. The object beneath the cracked lid was partially concealed, yet unmistakable in its form. Ron later stated that this object was the Ark of the Covenant itself, the same ark described in Scripture. They shall make an ark of acacia wood, and overlay it with pure gold. Exodus 25:10. When Ron brought his light closer, he claimed he could see the edge of gold plating shining faintly beneath centuries of dust. However, something even more disturbing caught his attention. On top of the lid, also known as the mercy seat, there was a dark, hardened substance. It appeared as a thick black stain that had flowed downward from a narrow crack in the ceiling above. Remarkably, it had landed directly on the mercy seat, not beside it, not near it, but precisely upon it. Ron said this detail was impossible to ignore. The placement seemed intentional, almost symbolic. He carefully collected a small sample of the dark substance and preserved it. At the time, he did not know what it was, but he felt certain that it was deeply significant. According to Ron, the crack in the ceiling was caused by the earthquake described in the Gospel at the moment of Christ's death. And behold, the veil of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom, and the earth quaked, and the rocks were split. Matthew 27:51. Ron believed that when Jesus' side was pierced and blood and water flowed, that blood traveled through the crack created by the earthquake. It then moved downward through the stone, eventually dripping into the chamber below and landing directly on the mercy seat of the Ark of the Covenant. If this were true, the symbolism was beyond human imagination. It would mean that the blood of Christ had physically touched the very place where atonement was once made under the Old Covenant. Ron Wyatt later stated that he took the preserved sample of the dark substance to a laboratory in Israel for examination. What he claimed to learn there became the most controversial element of his entire testimony. According to Ron, the laboratory technicians were astonished by the results. The substance was identified as blood, but not ordinary human blood. Ron asserted that the sample contained only 24 chromosomes instead of the normal 46 found in human DNA. He explained that 23 chromosomes appeared to originate from the mother, while only a single chromosome was present to determine male gender without any contribution from an earthly father. Based on this finding, Ron concluded that the blood could only belong to Jesus Christ. This claim immediately ignited intense controversy. Scientists, researchers, and skeptics demanded official documentation, peer-reviewed reports, and the identity of the laboratory that conducted the analysis. They called for the sample to be made available for independent testing. Many rejected Ron's account entirely, labeling it impossible or fraudulent. Some accused him of fabricating evidence or constructing a religious hoax. Ron Wyatt, however, never became defensive. He did not attempt to argue with critics or force belief upon anyone. His response remained consistent and simple. He stated that he was present, that he witnessed what he witnessed, and that his responsibility was only to report what he had seen. Not long after these events, Ron claimed that something unusual occurred. The passageway leading to the chamber where the ark was located collapsed unexpectedly. Further attempts to access the site became nearly impossible, and authorities restricted movement in the area. Ron believed this was not an accident. He felt that God had allowed the chamber to be sealed, believing the world was not yet spiritually prepared for the Ark of the Covenant to be revealed openly. According to Ron, the Ark would be revealed at a future time, God's appointed time, when prophecy would align and humanity would be ready to face the truth recorded in Scripture. To some, this explanation seemed convenient. To others, it appeared to be divine protection over a sacred object. Ron Wyatt passed away in 1999, taking with him many details, clarifications, and unanswered questions. The archaeological community remains divided. Some dismiss his claims entirely, while others believe his testimony deserves deeper and more serious investigation. Churches continue to debate his story. Governments remain silent. Israel has never issued an official confirmation or denial. Yet despite the controversy, the power of the story endures. If Ron Wyatt's testimony is true, it presents one of the most profound connections in biblical history, the meeting point of the Old Covenant and the New Covenant. The blood of the spotless lamb resting upon the mercy seat where atonement was once made under the law would represent a divine signature written across time. This account does not demand blind belief. Instead, it invites reflection. Even those who doubt Ron's claims often acknowledge the spiritual message behind them, that God fulfills his promises, even across centuries, and often in ways beyond human planning or understanding. Whether the Ark of the Covenant remains hidden in a sealed chamber or awaits revelation in the last days, it continues to remind humanity of one unchanging truth: God keeps his covenant. As Scripture declares, not with the blood of goats and calves, but with his own blood he entered the most holy place once for all. Hebrews 9:12. Ron Wyatt never altered his story. He never recanted or withdrew his testimony. He maintained that what he shared was not meant to convince the world, but simply to bear witness. As he once said, it was not his task to persuade, but to report what had taken place. History often reveals truth in its own time. Perhaps the world is not yet ready. Perhaps faith is still required. Or perhaps certain mysteries have been preserved, not to be hidden forever, but to be revealed to a generation that will need them most. Whether one believes Ron Wyatt or not, the question remains. If the Ark of the Covenant still exists, sealed beneath the place where Jesus shed his blood, what does that mean for faith, for history, and for the prophecies yet to unfold? Thank you for watching. For more content on biblical discoveries, mysteries of faith, and archaeological revelations, be sure to subscribe to the channel. God bless you, and see you in the next video.